Alright, it's finally time for our last of Best of 2023 episode. We're doing Best in Show, all the other minor awards, and what are my actual, all-around top favorite games of the year. Before we get the festivities underway, I have to make two corrections to previous Best of lists. Because as I was looking through all the games that I play, and there were a whole lot of them, there were a few that slipped through the cracks. So for the action category in the run-up section, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Ghost Runner 2. Despite the fact that it did feature the open world kind of mid portion that did drag things out a bit, the action and first-person gameplay were still on top, and the improvements and bouncing to make things a little bit easier certainly helped the game out, and it was another great recommendation. And the other runner-up, this time for the RPG category, was Lunacid, the indie modern retro take off of the Kingsfield formula. While it is certainly not going to be for everybody, it is a fantastic example of that design, and there is a whole lot of world to explore in it. Featuring, again, multiple endings, multiple secrets, secrets within secrets, and all that great stuff. So if you're a fan of Kingsfield and that particular era of first-person RPG, this is a really great take on it. But if you did not like that style of game, then this one is not going to change your mind in any way whatsoever. So with that, let's begin talking a little bit more about 2023. I mean, it was such a crazy year. I can't believe we got Elden Ring 2 so fast. It was such a fantastic take when they finally did the Armored Core collaboration in it. Speaking about Armored Core and mechs, we also played the No Man's Sky Bullet Heaven mode, where they procedurally generated every single kind of weapon, bullet, and projectile. It was just a feast for the eyes, and easily the best Bullet Heaven of the year. And in a surprise twist, I can't believe we finally sat down and played through every Mario game on PC. I mean, I can't believe that Nintendo finally put all their games on Steam and we were able to play them all. I know I've been dreaming of this for some time, but it finally happened in 2020. I'm sorry, what? Oh, I'm sorry. I've just been informed that I was looking into an alternate dimension, and I was in the good timeline for 2023. So, what year, what was the dimension we were in this time? Oh, that one sucked. Yep. As we all know, 2023 was, while a great year for games, we played a lot of fantastic ones, and my best of list will certainly demonstrate, it was not a good year for the game industry, or for the world in general. So first off, we're going to probably one-up the Game Awards, and say that for game dev in 2023, it was not the best time, with many layoffs, studio closings, and just more burnout and churn happening at the industry level. And like we were talking about earlier in 2023, while it did not affect the games obviously in 2023, it is going to most noticeably affect what's going to be coming in 2024 and 2025. And I hope that everyone who did unfortunately get laid off has or will be able to bounce back in some capacity into 2024. As another point that also was glanced over in the Game Awards, we have unfortunately two horrific wars going on this year, with of course what's happening still with Ukraine and Russia, and what's happening with Israel and Palestine. I know everyone loves when we get political here on the channel, but it's still a tragedy to see so many innocent lives being lost, and fingers crossed, but the pessimist in me says it's probably not going to happen, that it would be fantastic if things would get resolved peacefully, I should say, some point in 2024. But considering that we're in 2020 New Game Plus 4, probably not. But again, one can certainly hope. I'm not going to say things can't possibly get any worse, because, as we all know, things can always get much worse in these New Game Plus years. Before we get to our miscellaneous awards for 2023, I want to curve a very specific comment I'm sure we're going to get here. Why didn't Josh play my favorite game of the year? Why didn't he talk about Spider-Man 2, or Tears of the Kingdom, or Starfield, or Baldur's Gate? Why didn't the professional game critic play these games that I love so much? Well, I have a very simple answer for that. What do you see behind me right there? Do you see anything there? Because you know what I don't see? Any bribes whatsoever for your favorite game. Where are my gold bars? My safes full of money? My golden safes full of money? Giant burlap sacks with dollar signs on which I assume have money in them. I didn't even get any pizza bribes this year. So, if you're complaining about a game that you like that didn't show up on the list, again, there's nothing over here to grant your bribe. And now that we hit over 10,000 subscribers here on the channel, I can really sell out. So the bribe prices have gone up compared to last year. If you'd like your game to get placed on the list, it requires 1 golden bar. And then for every listing higher, the price will get exponentially more expensive. So we'll go from 1 gold bar to 3 gold bars to 8 gold bars, 24, and you get the picture. So if you do want to get your game in for next year, start getting those money and bribes in, people, because again, things close off very quickly in the bribe category here for the Game Wisdom Awards. So let's start with the It Could Have Been a Contender Award for a game that probably could have gotten on the list if I actually got around to playing it, and that would be Tears of the Kingdom. See, it did get a mention here, and you didn't even need to send any bribes. I really enjoyed Breath of the Wild, and if it wasn't for, of course, the trouble of setting everything up for Nintendo Switch, and of course spending full price on a game, we probably would have gone through Tears of the Kingdom here, but there were plenty of other games to play this year, but still, from what I heard of it and what I've seen of it, it looks like it is a fantastic game that maybe someday in the future we will get to here on the channel. Our next award is the game I surprisingly enjoy despite being absolutely terrible at it, and that goes to Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising. That is certainly a title. Yet another in the 2D anime very high-tech level fighting games. With the free demo that we tried, I did, well, better than I expected. I won, I think, like 2 out of like 10 or 12 matches, which for me is still really good. I did like what they were doing to kind of streamline things a little bit easier to parse if you have no idea what the heck is going on. But there's still many layers of complexity, different moves, special moves, hyper moves, and all that. So if you're looking for a fighting game that, at least in this version, has a lot to offer for someone who's completely new, I would check it out, and the free demo certainly gives you enough to really try at least to understand what is going on. Our next minor award is most disappointing game for me, and that unfortunately goes to World of Horror. Despite naming it one of my favorites or the runner-ups in the RPG list, I did end up being disappointed by the fact that it never really grew or kind of iterated on itself over its early access. Part of it was due to the developer running into some real-life issues that kept them from working on the game, but I was hoping to see a lot of the issues and complaints I had with it iron out at 1.0, and that did not happen. It's still a fantastic and original game, but I was hoping again for a little bit more meat in the gameplay department, and not so much the, I guess, overwhelming randomness that can happen in the run. As I said in the video, World of Horror is a game that you're going to play more for the vibes and the story, rather than for very involved and controllable gameplay. And it's unfortunate what keeps it from being a game that I want to play day in and day out. Our next award is the still waiting to give it an award to games that are still in early access that I really would like to gush and play them day in and day out, but with them still being in development, that's not the case. And it's a tie to Ultra Kill and a Dyson Sphere program. Both games received major updates in 2023. Ultra Kill getting its Layer 7, and Dyson Sphere getting its whole combat module sub-game, but still will take hundreds of hours to go through style. And I love both games, but with them still in early access, I can't put them onto the best of lists. So if you haven't played them yet, they are still very easy recommendations, and when they hit 1.0, we'll be doing a whole lot of them here on the channel. And for another random award, for Best Soundtrack in a game, we're going with a 3-way tie between Limbus Company, Pizza Tower, and Alan Wake 2. Three games with phenomenal uses of music and original songs that all add fantastically to their worlds and their aesthetics. And I am not even going to try and come up with a top list for where I would place Dark Ocean Summoning compared to the likes of, well, pick any Melee song from Limbus Company. And of course, all the phenomenal takes on Pizza Tower, and how you can listen to the Death I Deserve Early for any kind of exercise that you need to do. So with that said, let's get to a recap of the games that won the previous awards. And as I predicted, everyone was too scared to give enough likes for me to do a whole musical number myself. So here's just some standard music for you to enjoy. And unfortunately, if you want to hear me do singing here on the channel, you're going to have to step it up on the like count. Alright, everybody, we're finally at the best of for 2023. This list is going to be in somewhat order. I was originally going to have 3, then went to 5, and now we're at, I believe, 7. There's just been a lot of really standout and interesting games for 2023. Now, whether or not that trend will follow in 2024 remains to be seen. So, at the kind of bottom of the top of the list, I'm going to give it to Armored Core 6. So Armored Core 6 is of course the latest in the series, and now that From Software has become a household name, thanks to their brutally difficult Souls-likes, they can now introduce a new generation of gamers to their other challenging series, all about mech, or should I say AC customization. The game does a really great job of iterating on this kind of like hard lock-on, very movement-focused design, complete with the entire sense of customization, and you can take this as far or as small as you want. You just want to follow meta builds and beat every boss that way? Go for it. You just want to build one build and just try to rip and tear through everything? Go nuts. And this is a great example of a game that, while it has obviously the budget and support from Software, it does a lot with very minimal aspects of its gameplay, aesthetics, and story. This is a game that is very mission focused. You're not exploring a huge open world. Yet all the environments are very striking, very unique. There are some jaw-droppingly beautiful scenes in this game, such as when you fight the giant worm. Speaking of that, despite the fact that all we really see are either emblem logos or ACs, the characterization, writing, and voice acting are all fantastically well done, as everyone still wants them to be called Buddy, I think, after playing this game. Great example of action design, and again, the customization definitely takes this up a notch and why it makes it to the list here. And I hope that, 1, this inspires more developers to do customization along these lines, and 2, I hope we see more AC building combat stuff from Software. And maybe we'll get that dream Armored Core cross Monster Hunter cross Evangelion game that people want out, that they were talking about on X Twitter. But again, if you're looking for customization in your action or action in your customization, Armored Core 6 is definitely an easy pick. Coming in at number 6, it is Against the Storm. 2023 was a year where a lot of early access games finally came out, and it's also one that I've been really looking forward to. Against the Storm does a fantastic job of merging roguelike design with city building to create something that we really haven't seen at this particular style. Maybe the closest would have been something like Kinga, that may have also came out this year. Again, all the years are just blurring together for me. What Against the Storm does exceptionally well is that it presents a different kind of survival city builder. This is not the same as, say, a Banished or Frostpunk, where the design forces a very set way of playing. If you don't build the right structures and get the right resources at the right time, you're just going to die in winter, or in Frostpunk's case, super winter. Because the structures you get are randomly chosen, and the environments are procedurally generated, it requires you to do something that we really haven't seen at this level in a city builder, and that is adapt on a map-by-map basis. The fact that the buildings themselves are almost like an analog to cards in a deck builder is a very great touch, along with the persistence of the more you play, the more you unlock, which unlocks more structures, which makes the game harder, which gives you more challenges. This is by no means an easy game to learn. That's kind of the thing that keeps me ranking it even higher on this list. While once you've learned the intricacies and rules of it, it is very easy and very approachable to play. But getting to that point may be a little bit hard for some people. The GUI is quite literally all over the screen that you need to pay attention to. And kind of understanding what each building can do does take a little bit more than I think the tutorial does a good job of explaining. In that, you not only have structures that perform the same task or the same functions, but some will do it better, some will do it worse. How do you take these buildings and apply to what the environment is and vice versa? But if you do learn this, you will find a very unique and fantastic city builder. And once again, proving that roguelike design can certainly fit almost any genre. Coming in at number 5, a very late entry and yet another game that ended early access this year, or 2023, is RoboQuest. A combination of a first-person shooter with push-forward combat and all the roguelike and rogueliteness that one can imagine. A completely different feel and tone and pacing compared to Gunfire Reborn, which I really loved last year, or, again, everything a year behind me recording this. What RoboQuest does really well is that it once again presents just how permutations and variants with roguelike and roguelite design can add to any genre, in this case a very high-speed reflex-driven game. Gunfire is on the slower side. You don't need to be like super reactive to play it. RoboQuest, you do. And the different movement tech, different unlocks you get transform this game into something else. And I would kind of be curious to see like if they do release like an expansion or DLC at some point that adds in more content, what would it be like to design this game or design content at the base level of all the unlocks? Meaning that the players already has the triple jump, the grapple, the jetpack, and just really push, no pun intended, the whole movement tech angle that really starts to make itself known about halfway to the late game of RoboQuest. Weapon design is very solid. All the guns have like a really nice meatiness feel, and they've been updated since launch. And again, if you like a roguelite, or shall I say an action roguelite, and you particularly enjoyed Gunfire but want a little bit more oomph to everything, then again, just a solid game and just really impressive, just like with Gunfire, that another game got through early access and ended up being fantastic. Coming in at number 4, we go to Void Stranger, the latest game from System Eraser, and as I said in my puzzle video, it could get multiple awards, which I can't tell you why. This is a game that, again, it is incredibly unassuming if you look at screenshots or watch general plays of it, just like an upcoming game on this list. But what this game does is that it provides layers and layers of storytelling, puzzle, and game design, all wrapped up in a lot of secrets, which once again, I'm not going to spoil here. This is a game that definitely deserves at least one playthrough completely blind on, just to kind of let it all hit you as the developers intended. But I certainly give you my blessing if after you've done it several times, just to look up kind of the conditions, and there are some very archaic and mysterious ones, to see this game all the way through to its brilliant conclusion. And this one has me both excited and scared to see what System Erasure will cook up next. So if you love puzzle design and looking for one that, while it may look like something you've played before, trust me, you have not played one like this, then you should definitely pick this one up. Alright, we're into the top 3, and we have 3 indie games, 3 different designs to go with for this year. And number 3 is going to be Pseudo Regalia. This is a phenomenal platformer that is also a actual, factual, and credible 3D Metroidvania as well. This game makes it on this list for being one of, if not the only example I could think of a 3D game that does Metroidvania design as great as it does the movement and jump tech. This is the closest an indie game I've seen yet to really capture and encapsulate what makes the 3D Mario games and Nintendo's philosophy work so well. In Pseudo Regalia, it is a joy to move around and jump, and how the different abilities and tech you get interact with each other, and the level design works exceptionally well. This is not like a trap I see a lot of designers fall into when designing 2D or 3D platforming, is that everything feels very locked or limited. I can only do a double jump, I can only do a wall jump, I can only do like a ground pound, and these moves don't kind of intersect or play off of each other. In Pseudo Regalia, I can do a ground pound into a super jump, into a kick jump, into a wall run, into a wall kick, into an ultra jump, into a dive jump, into a sliding jump, into a slide run jump, ultra ground, wall kick jump. And it all feels really damn good to do. And I was watching the GDQ run of Pseudo Regalia before I recorded this part, and it is phenomenal to see this game play at the high level. And even if you have no intention of speedrunning it, this is one of those platformers, and just the general feel of movement that you're going to be smiling as you do this, once you start figuring out how all this connects, and it works so well. While I didn't talk about this in my game design guide to 2D platforming, this is a masterclass of 3D platforming, movement, and jump tech. And as I've always said, there's a huge difference between the bad, good, and master examples of a genre, and Pseudo Regalia is a must-play if you have any interest in building like a 3D movement-focused game, and how it can feel to move and slide and jump and ground pound and all that, and making it connect in a way that it just turns the act of moving into like a playground of toys, or just like toys you can play with in terms of moving around these levels and solving things. And I hope, beyond hope, that a developer will work on a sequel or do something more in this space with platforming and Metroidvania design, because they nailed it far quicker than I think I've seen a lot of major studios get. So again, if you love platforming and anything that is reflex or movement tech based, then you absolutely need to play this one. What's interesting, like with a lot of my best of, or the finales of these best of lists, is that the top 3 games are often like, I could really, like, depending upon the time of the day, the size of the moon, whether or not I stubbed my toe that morning, would determine which ones would end up in what order. And for number 2 and number 1, it really is just 2 games I really love, and I probably spent the most time playing them off stream. In fact, this pick is one that I only even played on stream at all, and that is Final Prophet: A Shop RPG. As I said, Final Prophet is a very unassuming game. If you look at any screenshots or footage of it, you'll think it's just another box standard RPG maker, slash and burn, very quickly made game. But under the surface, this is a fantastic case of using RPG design to do something that we don't see in the genre. In this case, you're not battling monsters for loot and experience. You are trying to earn lots of money, buy a property, sell lots of goods. As I said in the RPG, you fight capitalism with the power of capitalism. This is a game that, again, it is not for everyone. Let me say that again. This is not the game that's going to be the 100 million copies sold RPG on Steam. There's a very specific audience for this game. If you have any interest in like shop sims, the Racketeer style gameplay minus combat, then you need to play this one. And I would say for anyone who also likes idle design, that kind of, idle progression of going from very little to a little bit more, to now I'm earning millions of dollars, to now I'm doing all of this stuff. This is an easy recommendation, and again, a great example of a game that not only is very unassuming, but it has layers of systems. And it's probably only going to get more than that as the developers have been adding more content or planning on adding in like more New Game Plus, post-game support, or post-game content. And I would love to see more developers take RPG design and these kinds of loops in a unique direction beyond, again, just fighting enemies and gaining more experience. I would, as I said, this is a game I would suggest everyone should at least give this like a 30-minute to an hour long play. If it doesn't hook you, okay, you're out an hour. If it does hook you, then you have another probably 50 hours plus that you can easily get out of this one to see everything it has to offer. So again, for me, a very solid recommendation and a fantastic game that I enjoyed. Alright, and with that said, it's time for number 1, and by now you should have probably have guessed, considering the games that I've gushed over this year, as to what it is, because it hasn't shown up yet on this list. And that is Pizza Tower. Pizza Tower is another fantastic example of platforming and reflex-driven gameplay done in a unique and exceptional way. This is the one that I mentioned on my game design guide for platforming, or 2D platforming, as it's just a great example not only of building a fantastic movement text system for how Peppino moves, runs, jumps, and all that, but then creating levels that are unique enough, that are interesting enough, and that will test the player in all kinds of ways in terms of using these movement abilities. Every level has a unique twist, a unique gimmick to it. It doesn't feel like it's being overly forced. This is one of those games that it doesn't feel like the levels were just added to pad the list, or to just say, oh, we have X amount of levels. Everything feels like it should belong there. From the kind of late 80s, early 90s cartoon aesthetic, to again, the phenomenal soundtrack that I mentioned earlier. This is once again a game that perfectly encapsulates everything that we love about indie games. It is unique, it is something that you can tell a lot of passion and hard work was put into, and it is certainly something you will never see from a AAA studio. Again, like with Pseudo Regalia, this is a game that if you have any interest, this time with 2D movement and kind of movement tech and platforming, then you need to play this one. And at this point, there is certainly no idea or sign we'll see a Pizza Tower 2, but if you enjoy pizza, platforming, and a very perfected gameplay loop, then you certainly need to play this one. We are officially done with 2023, and it is only going to be January 22nd of 2024 by the time you're watching this. We can finally move on to this year, with even more indie games to play, more titles to spotlight, more critical thoughts on me ranting about design and the game design guides, and more. So let me know what you think about this entire series, and how I didn't like your favorite game, and how the list was rigged, and you didn't get your gold bars in time to bribe me. And with that said, I am done for right now, and I will see everyone sometime Vegas end of 2024, beginning of 2025, for our next Best of series. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my books wherever they are sold. Visit our Discord and Patreon, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on Game Wisdom, where you some of the art and science of games.